So yeah, we'll get started with the first one, themes and variables. So I've kind of highlighted the big points of each one. So themes and variables, essentially the background to this new feature is that you can now add different variables that relate to either color values, number values, string, so like text values, and Boolean values, which are a little bit more advanced, but it is an option. So those are all variable types. And what do I mean by variables? So they've added this new thing in Figma called local variables. By clicking on this, you can see all the variables. So this is brand new. This has never been in Figma before. And variables kind of work similar to styles. So color styles, text styles, the idea that you can define it at one point and then apply it to a number of layers throughout the file. And then all you have to do is change the one value and it will, cascade that through the rest of the file. It works in a very similar way. It's just that now you can also do this for these different value types as well. So now you don't only just have color and color and text styles. You can now do this with any sort of number value. You can do this with content. So like you can have names and content strings as a value on a layer. So that's just kind of the surface, but that's essentially the idea of what variables are. And yeah, so like I mentioned, you can have let me go into the demo here. So you can have color values. So you can apply this very similar to color styles. I can kind of get into the reason why they still have both in a sec, but you can have color ones, string ones, like I mentioned, and number. So I've kind of represented this here. I'm going to change these so you can kind of get the idea of how it works. But essentially, it works very similar to styles. So let's say I wanted this number value to be 20. If I change this in this variable, it will change the layer in the prototype as well. So this is more relevant in the prototyping features, but just wanted to mention it here to introduce it. And the same is true for string variables as well. So if I want to change this to a different word, I can do that, which is pretty cool. So then any text layer that I have set that variable on that text layer to string, it will change that. So very similar to the way styles work. And then in Figma, to actually apply these variables, you can click on any layer that can take a variable. So if that's a color, it works very similar to the way styles are. For the color ones, you would access essentially the same button that you would for the styles, and you can select your color. For text and number ones, it's a bit different. So you're going to see this icon pop up quite a bit in the Figma UI on the right side here as you work through the new Figma UI. But this little cube with a dot is for the variables. So any instance where you can set a variable, whether that's a string, color, number, Boolean, you just click on this, and then it'll give you your drop down of all your different variables that you can apply. So here I've applied the string one, but I can use a variety of the ones I've defined. So yeah, it's pretty much variables. The other thing that's part of this overhaul of features is themes. So we've covered variables. Themes is essentially a collection of variables, and you can make different themes. It's probably easier if I show it to you. So a theme is a collection of variables, and then within a theme, so I have viewports as an example. So within the viewports collection of variables, each one has a different theme. So there's a desktop and a mobile theme. And what you can essentially do is you can apply a different value to the same variable. And then you can essentially change the theme on a frame or a section, and it will change all the values that would be associated with the variable on the frame. So for example, here I've defined a viewport width for desktop and one for mobile, but they both use the same variable. So for example, on this frame, actually I'll make a new one maybe. So if I make a frame here, and I want this to follow the desktop theming for sizing, all I would do is I can select the layer on this frame. So the width, I would go viewport width. And then I am now following this variable by the number, applying it to the width. So then if I wanted to say, okay, I want to see what this would look like on mobile, I can then go in this layer and I can change the viewport theme. So it's right now it's on desktop automatically. If I change it to mobile, that variable that I've set the width to now changes to the one I've set for that theme. So you can do this for any of the variables, whether that's color, numbers, strings, booleans, any of that stuff. And so that opens up some pretty cool possibilities with making automated designs between viewports. This is like the biggest use case, but there's other opportunities as well. Any questions on themes? I feel like I stumbled through that a little bit.
I'm a bit curious, and I'm not sure if you're going to get to it, but you had padding and spacing in there. So I'm assuming you apply that to things within the container, or like does the applying it to the layer overall actually do anything?
Yeah, I'm going to get to that, but essentially, yeah, you can define a number variable as, let's say, like you want to define spacing. And let's say I want to say header spacing is 24 pixels. I can then apply that variable to multiple values in auto layout, to heights, to spacing in auto layout. Yeah, that's variables and themes. It's not too many specific features, but it's a very broad thing that applies throughout a lot of different use cases in the design workflow. So it's pretty cool.